Welcome back, everybody, to a special episode of the RacePlazaMedia podcast. My name is Milan.
My name is Pia.
And the reason why it's special, because today we're not going to do any talks about any race recaps. Today we're doing a recap about the F1 Academy show on Netflix.
Correct.
So the big work that I did is I showed up today.
Yes.
And
Congratulations.
you actually watched all 7 episodes? Okay. So you're going to kind of break down every episode for us, or you're just going to talk about the show in general?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about it. I'm going to give you some of my thoughts. If you are worried about spoilers, there will definitely be spoilers.
Okay.
So
you've been warned.
Yes, yeah, you've definitely been warned. I think even though you will be experiencing spoilers, you could go back and watch it, especially because F1 Academy has already happened. So if you've watched the season last year, you already know what's happening. It's just essentially it's the drive to survive of the F1 Academy in a way.
What is it called?
F1 Academy.
Oh, it's just called F1 Academy.
I don't know if there's like a under thing,
but
it's
not
F1
like Drive to Survive.
No. It's F1 Academy, and it's also really cool. I think you've heard about it before, but it's produced by Hello Sunshine, so Reese Witherspoon's company.
Okay, yes, okay, very
so
cool.
it's also great that she does it. So it's all women, or a lot of women behind it too. So so I spent this week. I binged it in 2 days.
Sorry, real quick. Reese Witherspoon really has her fingers in all honey pots, right?
Yes,
good for her. Good
100%.
For her.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So basically, I watched it this week. I watched it in 2 days.
Okay, yeah.
I binged it a little bit, but I enjoyed it, so I didn't mind binging it. But basically, like you said, it's 7 episodes, and the episodes range anywhere from about like 30 something minutes to about like 46. I think is the longest episode, so it's easily consumable. You don't have to binge it like I did, but I enjoyed it, so it worked out for me. So just a little bit more information. So a lot of the episodes are especially at the beginning, are by race.
Okay.
So they
or by race weekend.
Race weekend, yes, race weekend. So they talk about a specific race weekend and what kind of happens along with it, and then there's some other themes that are very reoccurring throughout the season. Before I get into that, I wanted to see if you. Of course, we have 15 drivers on the grid permanently, and then we have. Per race weekend, we have a wild card, which they didn't really mention any of the wild cards.
Fair.
Which makes sense. Yes, of course. But of course, because there's only 7 episodes, they didn't highly feature all the drivers.
Okay.
Most of them have been seen. All of them, I think, were seen at some point or another, but not everybody was really mentioned or interviewed and things like that.
I'm assuming probably the people who are maybe more in the public eye and who are driving more in the front probably got more screen time.
So who do you think?
Okay,
some of
so
the ones
I
that
already know Leah Block, obviously, but this also comes because she is kind of a legacy, comes from a legacy. Obviously, her father was a very prominent driver, not in F1. I would say Dorian, obviously, because she got so much attention last year at the beginning of the season. That's what my guess is. I would also say, of course, the champion, Abby Pulling. So that's 3 people. How many did you want me to name?
I don't know.
I would say also probably because she's American and she had been doing well is Chloe Chambers. This is really interesting because even though she is very strong on the grid, I don't know how much attention she would get off the grid would be Maya Vogue.
Okay.
Okay, then let me think. I'm also wondering if there is also some type of like some sponsor had maybe more of like, hey, put my driver in the spotlight than others. So I'm trying to think. I would hope that maybe we would get an episode about Amna and Hamda Al-Kabezi. So featuring the 2 sisters, because that's also obviously very unique to have siblings on the grid.
Yes.
And then the last person, I just feel like I'm missing someone. Like why didn't you think about that person?
Yes, you are definitely missing somebody.
I'm gonna be so annoyed by it. Okay, wait a minute.
And somebody who's actually getting featured very, very much in this season, the entire season.
Okay, this sounds silly. Do I like this person? I probably like everyone on the grid.
Yes.
Is this person on the grid this season?
No.
Okay, so they left, so that makes it a little bit easier. Okay, to speed this up a little bit. Who left? Abby left. I am drawing such a blank. I'm so annoyed because I know this.
Yes. You'll be so upset when I tell you who it is. I'll give you like 5.
Okay. I
4,
can't think of Aurelia
2,
Noble. She's back.
1.
Who left?
Last chance. Bianca Bustamante.
Fuck! I'm so mad. Yes, of course, Bianca
Of course,
Bustamante.
Bianca. Yes.
God damn it! I'm such an idiot.
No, don't be so harsh on yourself. But I mean,
Yes,
she's an obvious.
She's actually the first person I thought about when I started my whole speech.
Oh, but you didn't.
About people being featured in the public,
Yes.
because you saw her a lot in the McLaren grid, and then for whatever reason I completely blanked out.
Yes.
Oh, I'm annoyed.
Yeah. So I mean, you named really great options. Of course, Abby pulling big this season, just because of course she spoiler won. Then we also have big feature on Leah Block, and then also very big on Bianca Bustamante.
Yes.
I think those 3 were probably the top.
Interesting. Okay.
And then after that, I would say the second group of most featured people are Chloe Chambers.
Okay. Yeah.
Hamda Enamda Al-Kabesi. And then after that, I would say is Dorian.
Interesting. I just thought Dorian, because she had gotten so much attention after her double win that ended up not being a double win starting the season. She was the pocket rocket. She ended up being on Jimmy Kimmel, right? But yeah, okay. Anyways.
So she didn't really have a lot of attention in the season until episode 4.
Interesting.
Which I thought was really interesting because also, which is one of the negative things I have to say about the season, or I'm a little disappointed that was left out. So the double win that was taken away from her was not mentioned once.
So I wonder if it wasn't mentioned because they're like, hey, this puts us in a bad spot that something like this happened.
Yes.
Especially because it wasn't her fault. The way the flag is positioned, and I get this even in sim driving.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have someone tell me in my ear, it's a lot. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm just doing my laps.
I was still surprised that they didn't mention it
because
at
it's such
all.
a big thing
It
to
is,
happen,
yeah.
right? But I'm wondering if also maybe the team is like, I don't know how much influence they obviously have over that.
No
That
clue.
it could be like, listen, this is making us look bad, and this is maybe also looking. Like, I'm not saying it's making F1 Academy look bad, but because let's be real, the F1 also does dumb shit
Yes,
all the time.
all the time.
People getting grid penalties for stuff that isn't necessary, but
Yes.
someone obviously losing a whole win. I mean, okay, that actually happened to George Russell last year. He got disqualified,
Oh,
right?
yes.
For weight.
And I'm sure it's on Drive to Survive that came out this
100%.
year. But I just thought that was really interesting because I had it in my notes because I noticed, it wasn't part of the first episode because I thought maybe they're kind of going chronologically.
Did they go chronological?
They did, but they also skipped moments and things that happen at other races. They mention at races they mentioned in the show.
Okay.
So there's like, for example, there's the one episode where Chloe Chamber wins a race, right? But then
In Miami, right? She won in America, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, she won.
Sorry, I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, you're totally fine. I have the calendar open
Okay.
for that reason, but it's just silly. It reloaded
Of course.
the other season just now. She had won.
Or did she make
Chloe
it onto the
in Barcelona.
Barcelona?
She won in Barcelona, but then online or in the show, it made it seem like she had won in Abu Dhabi. Just the way it was cut.
Oh, interesting.
So it was interesting that some of, like, I know Drive to Survive, everything doesn't match chronologically. They use things from
they
one
also
episode.
use audio apparently from one part and put it
Yes.
in there to make it more dramatized.
Yes. So I'm sure that kind of system was used too. But I had noticed it. I was like, that doesn't kind of line up, especially as somebody who watched the season. I'm like, okay. I mean, it doesn't bother me. That part doesn't. It was like, it's fine as long as her win is mentioned, and then there's a lot of things that go around it. But so yes. So anyways, so one of the big things. Well, let me start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So first episode, immediately the first person featured is Leah Block.
Yes.
Which makes sense because she's American and Netflix. I mean, Netflix is worldwide, but I think it's also a little bit catering to the American audience, maybe.
And it's an American production company.
Correct, exactly. And like you said, her dad was really, really famous, who had died just a couple years prior, and she's kind of stepping in his footsteps, but also making her own path, which is a big a theme also in this, that she wants to be famous. She wants to create her own name, essentially, because
Yeah.
she's famous with the block name.
Yeah, of
Because he
course.
was famous in Raleigh. And then we had looked it up again. He died during a snowmobile accident at
Like
home
freak
on
accident.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so sad. And then so now she's trying to like make her own name, since he was never in open wheel. It was kind of already a discussion when he was still alive. And then her dad's friend, who was with him his whole career, is now her performance coach. And
Oh.
him and the dad had a conversation even before he died, like to help her like make
Step
her
out of the
way.
shadow.
And then and so that's his life goal now, in a way too, which is really beautiful. And there's some really beautiful moments. I mean, I cried a couple
I
of
know
times.
you were sitting on the couch next to me.
I mean, because in the first episode, I immediately talk about his death and how it impacted her, and also the mom is featured, and
Because
it's just
I mean, she was like 15 when
16, I think it
when-
was, or 15.
Yeah, because last year she was 17 on the grid.
She turned 18 during the season. Yes.
So I mean, as a teenager losing a parent, I can't imagine.
Yes. So it was-
Fortunately, I can't relate.
100%,
But,
luckily.
yeah.
But yeah, so that was very devastating. And there's a couple moments where they bring him up a lot, because we do follow Leah's season a lot, which is great, because she had a really upwards trajectory
She did,
throughout
yeah.
the season, which was so exciting to watch. That's why we were looking forward to her this season.
She was driving in the Williams
Yes.
livery.
Correct. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was driving with Williams. So that was really nice to see. And also just to get to know her a little bit.
Sorry, just like a little bit talking about Williams. Did you see that she actually took a Claire Williams off-roading?
Oh, no.
She went because Leah is a really great rally racer.
Oh,
right?
100%.
She's won a championship.
Yes. She's the first woman to win
The
in her category.
extreme off-road championship,
yes.
and she did it as a minor.
Yes.
Right. And she recently the video went up on YouTube where she took Claire Williams off-roading.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
exciting. I would love to see that. I have to go
Yeah.
check that out afterwards. But that's also one of the things. She comes from being really successful in rally, having accolades, winning championships and trophies, and then coming to something that she has zero experience in, because she also has no experience karting. Like, she came
Of
no
course,
karting, no
yeah.
nothing, just from off-road. And she said it's such a different
Oh,
discipline.
100%.
And it was quite hard on her at the beginning, that she was having trouble. She wasn't doing as well because she's used to winning, and then she's suddenly not even maybe making in the points,
Yeah.
So it was hard for her. And that's one of the big themes also throughout the season, is the mental strength these women need. I mean, motorsports athletes in general, but just the emphasis on how tough it is, how much pressure they have on themselves, how much pressure they put on themselves because of the goals they have, because of what they want to achieve for themselves, for their families, and things like that.
And also that you do have a time limit with F1 Academy. Once
Exact-
again, you only
yes.
get 2 seasons, right? 2 seasons and then you're done.
Exactly. Which was also a theme for many of the women. For Abby Pulling, it was her second season. For Hamda and Amna Al-Kabesi, it was their second season. For Bianca Bustamante, it was their second season. So a lot of things were on the line. And Susie Wolf also said, she said it's harsh to say this, but she believes it's true. And she said, I want to say it correctly. I have it written down.
I wonder actually if Martha Garcia would be allowed to come back, because she only did 1 season. Or is it like if you win, you're not allowed to come back? I wonder.
I don't know for sure.
So while you're looking this up, for
Yes,
anyone who
yes.
doesn't know, so the first season of F1 Academy you weren't able to watch the races. They were still getting everything established, and the champion, Martha Garcia, she ended up moving on. And so technically she would have a year available, but I don't know if it says if you win, you're out.
Yeah, but also like it's like almost not taking a step back, but you've achieved everything in F1 Academy. So the next step is to move up and further, because there is of course a chance that you don't do as well, and then you'll leave on not as good of a position.
I don't know if she got what Abby got.
Of course, no, I don't think
For
she did.
winning. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
it would almost be worth it to come back. But I know that she's racing in other categories, so obviously she's doing well.
Yes.
You know?
So what Susie Wolf said, if you can't cut it in F1 Academy, there's not going to be much more of a career left in motorsport for you.
At least an open seat. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because F1 Academy is essentially equivalent to racing in a Formula 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't even cut it in the beginner or the junior category of Formula racing.
Yeah. But she said specifically motorsport because I think it's also because there's, especially now, a lot of eyes on it. People see it, teams see it. And if you don't do well, if you crumble under the pressure and like whatever happens, they see it, they notice that you might not get as many opportunities because women already get less opportunities.
Yeah.
So if they see that, they will judge you harsher, most likely,
Yeah.
you know? So I thought that was very interesting. And also Susie Wolf is very much beloved amongst the women, of course. I mean, because she's an icon. She's the last woman who's driven an F1 car competitively in a Williams. So she's the goal for a lot of those women. And it's also, I forgot, I think Abby said it, like as soon as Susie Wolf walks in, everybody's on their best behavior because you don't want to.
Yeah, because she's also maybe the one who will help you in a way, you know, because she created this whole thing, right? She's already doing so much.
She's the queen, and then
she's
she's mother, you know, so I mean, that's who she is. So so everybody's looking up to her, and she's also judging them or giving them productive feedback. She's a big supporter of them, but she's also very critical of them. She expects a lot of them, rightfully so. So there's like, I don't know if you remember, at one point last season, Bianca Bustamante had missed her grid box at the start. And she was so upset about it because she's like, this is the basics. You cannot make these mistakes at this level. And especially Bianca at that time, it was already her second season. She has a lot of experience. So she was very upset about it, which I get, but it's I like that it's like tough love.
I imagine that she probably reamed Mercedes for fucking over Dorian.
Oh, I'm sure.
So maybe they're like, we're not going to show that.
Because also Toto is her booze.
Yeah,
like, we're not showing this.
Yeah, it's like Toto got to. No, it's not like Toto's. It was Toto's fault, obviously.
No, obviously.
But, you know, to be celebrating when your driver doesn't know what's going on is pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, it's not Mercedes.
Yeah, Mercedes livery, but I think it is a Prema.
I think it's Prema. Yes. So anyways, so like we said, Leah was featured very much. Then which comes with that and a lot of the women that are featured, there's this theme of coming from money and not coming from money. Especially Abby Pulling was the one driver that they featured who doesn't come from money. Of course, we knew it as she was talking throughout the season. If she doesn't win 2024, she won't have a seat the following year because she just simply cannot afford it. You could see it. They showed where she came from. It's very humble. Her dad worked 7 days a week so he can afford, and he was her mechanic. And like, it's very humble home living situation. She was living or renting a place from her performance coach, Alice, who we've seen throughout the season. So she paid her rent, and she was trying to sell merch to pay for things because, like you've been saying so many times throughout all of our recaps, is they pay for everything themselves.
I think a full ride in F4 for a whole season, and you have to keep in mind F4 is not as you do 3 races per weekend. I think it's about a little bit over $100,000. Yeah. So try to come up with $100,000 on top of your cost of living.
Yes.
Right. Like as a parent, right? Like where are you gonna find that unless you are well off, right? Yeah.
And I mean, it's just her dad. They never talked about her mother. Which is, I mean, I don't know what's there, but so it was also a little sad moments because her dad wasn't able to come to any of her F1 Academy races. He used to go to everything, but then as much as she was rising through the ranks, through the different leagues, he just couldn't afford it, or they couldn't afford it.
You can't, because like before she was probably racing
locally
or nationally in the UK. So small country, public transportation, car, you can probably get everywhere.
Yeah.
And now you're racing in Abu Dhabi, you're racing in Miami, you're racing in Barcelona. How are you going to afford that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Oscar's mom doesn't go to all of his races because, I mean, he could probably afford now paying for her stuff, but she's like, I'm working, dude, you know? No,
exactly. So that was also interesting to see. So Abby's humble beginnings, and then on the complete opposite side.
Hamda and Amda?
Well, one, yes, you have Hamda and Amna Al-Kabesi. Amna, the older sister, she has her own Porsche GT3 that she she gets sport cars just because she likes driving them in the streets, you
Oh
know?
my God,
So she
dude.
has all this money, both of them.
And GT3, I don't think people realize those are so hard to come by.
Yes.
Like a lot of times, I think when the GT3 came out, you got invited for
Yes.
it. And it's usually you got an invitation either if you're, I think, like an influencer or something like that, or if you already bought
Yes.
several Porsche, or they're like, hey, if you're going to buy a couple, you can also get a GT3.
Yes.
So you have to imagine that's the type of money
Yes.
you're coming from. And
Yeah.
the GT3 is what, over 350,000?
I don't know. But then also you also have Leah Block.
Yeah.
You know, she has her own like garage and her own rally track and her own like, you know, so it's like
It's like people just live differently.
different
from
world.
us,
And there was
you know?
also like a moment, I think they went to Singapore and then like a bunch of the women went earlier because they just wanted to sightseeing and stuff like that. And Abby was like, I can't. So she was practicing and training at home because she can't leave earlier and she can't afford to stay longer in the hotels and
Because
things like that.
this all adds up, and like Singapore is not a cheap place to stay at
Yeah.
all, you know, in a lot of these places, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, I'm gonna stay extra 3 days, but this is then all of a sudden extra $600, and
Yeah.
this does add up. Like I get it.
Yes. So, I mean, so that was one of the themes, which was really interesting just to see the contracts. And of course, it pulls at your heartstring
Yeah, of course.
and things like that. Then one of the things I really loved was also they were highlighting, which I thought was really interesting, the relationship that a lot of the women, like Amna and Hamna, Abby Poling, Chloe Chambers, they all had a really close relationship with their dad. And they wanted to really make their dad proud.
interesting.
Or
Okay.
the race where Chloe Chambers had won, her dad was there and she really wanted to do well.
That's awesome.
And it worked out. So that was perfect. And then Abby Poling ended up taking the overall championship at the one race her dad attended.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
And he's like built in the water too.
Yeah.
So I'm built in the water. We're
Yeah.
crying together.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was so beautiful to see. And then Amna had a really tough season. She had a better season her first season. The second season just didn't go well
Yeah.
for her, and she was really struggling. Also, because she's
You said Hamda?
Amna, so
Hamda,
the older
one.
sister.
Yeah, because Hamda did actually much better. She was quite often in the top 10.
Yeah, and she was also on the podium.
Yeah.
Which is also a whole storyline. You
And
know?
I think Amna and Hamda, their dad used to race or
Yes,
is a racer,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So their dad used to be a race car driver, and so Amna started racing because she wanted to get closer with her dad.
Oh, okay.
And then sorry. And then Hamna saw Amna racing, so she wanted to be a part of it.
Can you tell me their age difference? Do you know?
I don't know their age difference, but they have a really cute relationship.
Okay, that's cool.
So Amna, the older one, is kind of like the daredevil, very confident, badass. And then the sister, Hamda, is a little bit more shy, has a little bit of lack of self-confidence. So that was a whole thing also that she was trying to rebuild it, because also the season before, she had a really bad accident in, I think it was F4, where she broke her radial here. Because you know how they always say when you drive and then when you're about to crash, let go of your steering wheel.
Because it will snap.
Exactly.
Like it's so bad you can actually break your hand when you have like one of those high-end sim racing steering wheels, because they recreate that force. And like I've heard of guys like breaking their arms because they didn't let go when they crashed on the sim. And it has such force when it snaps. I mean, that's how Danny Rick broke his arm wrist last year, right?
Yeah. So she had broken it, and it took her, it hit her confidence quite hard. She was a little bit more scared. She didn't drive as aggressively, which completely understandable. So that was an arc to like her regaining her confidence. And then so it was so such polar opposites, because Amna was always there for Hamda and like talking her up and things like that, but she couldn't confide like that into Hamna, because that would bring Hamna down too. So
she felt like I have to be the rock.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
cannot,
which is really tough.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season, she knew, of course, they were both done with F1 Academy. But she was like really depressed of like, what am I going to do now? I did so poorly this season. She doesn't know if she has a seat the following season anywhere, you know, so that was really heartbreaking. And then, but then she graduated from college. It took her 7 years, but she did graduate because
congrats.
she said all the finals always happen when there were race weekends. So it took a little bit longer. But she said graduation gave her a different form of achievement, which made her really happy. So she wants to go back and get a master's.
I think maybe it's also good to get validation from outside of just racing and
Yeah.
not letting that define you.
Exactly, because she had also said that racing or motorsport became her personality.
Yes.
So it was nice for her to have something else. So she said in one of the last episodes that she wants to go and get a master's in sports management and make Hamna her prodigy.
Nice, because I think this is not just with racing. This is all athletes. I think this is especially for athletes where you usually like age out when you're still quite young.
Yes.
Like for example, gymnasts, right? You've been a gymnast for 15, 17 years, and all of a sudden you're 23 or 24, and all of a sudden you're too old for your sport, right? So, but this has all been your life, right? So it's very nice that they showed that. Actually, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and there was a lot of times you could see that Amna was struggling, like because she was so upset, but she wouldn't cry until the very, very end, where it was just like she's just so heartbroken.
But sometimes you just need to have a good cry about it.
Of course,
right?
and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but some people just think you have to be strong.
No.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But that was like a really beautiful story arc that kind of went throughout the whole season. It was also when they went to their home countries, or when they went to more of the Arab countries, they hosted all the other girls.
Oh, that's
they went to
awesome.
the desert. They went on camels, and then they had like a lunch or dinner kind of in the desert area.
Where are they from? Do you know?
I don't know, and I'm trying to remember where.
Is it Abu Dhabi? Is their home race? Was it? Or is it Dubai? Because they raced in both.
I think
right?
in Qatar,
Qatar
is where they did the cultural immersion thing. But and Abu Dhabi was the home race. Because in Abu Dhabi was also where the dad had won or stood on the podium before, and then Hamda was really excited because she made it onto podium there too.
She was. Amna was actually born in the States.
Oh, okay.
But she's from the UAE.
Okay.
Yeah, Emirati. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, but it was really cool to see them also featured, because I didn't expect it necessarily going into the season, but I liked having them featured a lot throughout the season. And
There's
then,
a 2-year age difference
oh,
between
okay,
them.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And then, of course, the third person, or the last person I want to mention who was featured very heavily, was Bianca Bustamante.
Was it tough for
Which
her?
is it was tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's also she became, I think, really famous
Because she's also online, I think,
because
right?
yeah, exactly,
TikTok and
through
stuff like
social
that.
media and things like that, because that's literally how she affords to go racing. She doesn't come from too much money either. So
She's
social
from the Philippines, right?
Yeah, from the Philippines. And so doing social media and modeling and all these things really give her the money to afford all of this, and the traveling and also traveling on a certain level, being able to afford nicer things and things like that. But it was tough. And it was also one thing, it also showed like how tough it is to balance that.
Yeah.
Because she had meet and greets. Like most of the other girls were not quite as famous as Bianca, but Bianca literally in Singapore, she had like a meet and greet before the race.
Yeah.
And so her mental space wasn't always quite where it needed to be.
Yeah.
And she put, of course, an immense pressure on herself. Not that the other women didn't do it, but it was just, it seemed like she was having a harder time bearing the mental stress and not being able to turn it off during the race. She was also really hard on herself. And there was this beautiful moment where she was saying like, I mask it really, really well, like my sadness and how tough it is because I have to put on this facade to perform for people,
And she's barely 20, right?
Yeah.
So she was 19 and 18.
Yeah.
This is so, like, a lot of people are not able to even handle this in their like late 20s, or maybe you're starting to handle actually pressure, right?
Yeah.
And you're like 19, 20, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it
dude.
seemed like she was doing it by herself
18,
too.
19. Yeah, so she was 18 in her first season, 19.
Yeah.
She just turned 20 earlier this
Yeah.
year.
So yeah, like I said, it seemed like she was doing it by herself too. Like there was no really mention of parents. They had a moment where she went home to the Philippines and she saw her grandma, and they seemed really, really close. But on the road, she was by herself. She has a manager who arranges she had a Vogue spread, which is like insane, of course, and all the different things that she does. And she has, of course, a performance coach also who came from McLaren, who I didn't care for as much. No, because he was this older British dude. And he was from McLaren, and he also reported back to McLaren, so he seemed like a little spy to me, you know, like he was. I understand that you have to be critical, and you have to, because you want to get the best performance out of the driver as
But sometimes
possible.
always bringing the hammer is maybe not the way to go.
Yeah, and sometimes, like Bianca said, she really loved him and she really liked him, and maybe they didn't show it
Because obviously we only see what they show, right?
exactly. So we saw a lot of harsh comments, I thought, from him, or him talking very critical of her, which is. I'm trying to see the balance of, like, you have to be critical of it, but sometimes I didn't think he had quite the understanding for her, for what she's doing, you know? And I don't know if he was quite as supportive and helpful, having the right touch to help her, than maybe somebody else would have had, you know? So I thought that was definitely one of the negatives for me, which I didn't care for him quite as much. And then, I mean, there's lots of different things that were, of course, different highlights throughout the season, like different wins were highlighted. Of course, Abby being the one to beat was highlighted. And there was a little bit of the rivalry between her and Dorian after episode 4. That's when that was a little bit more emphasized.
Which I will say, like, I get there was a rivalry, but Abby was very dominant last season.
100%.
She won a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think she was ever not on the podium.
Yeah, and I think there was.
I think there was one off race.
I think maybe one race, but even in the documentary show or whatnot, they said it like mathematically. Dorian had a chance.
Yeah, but it's like.
But it was like.
But it's like, okay, but this is when Abby doesn't score any points, like 7 races in a row or some bullshit, you know? Which is like
it was like the last 2 rounds or the last 4 races.
Which
but
is
like, what are the chances?
What are the chances, right? The
Yes.
person who's been consistently really making it herself at home on the podium.
Yes.
Top step, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. So I'm trying to make sure that I say everything, because I wrote down notes for every single episode, like breaking it down, but I don't want to spend that much time like breaking it down for you. And also, in case people want to watch it, I want to give them the opportunity to still go back and go see it. I'm just trying to go through my notes, but I think those were like some of the main points I wanted to go before I go into some of the maybe the negatives that I also.
And then I have some questions.
Okay, cool. One thing I also wanted to say, in the number 4 episode where they started featuring Dorian a little bit more, they also showed her Jimmy Kimmel interview.
Nice.
Which was so good. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have seen it. I highly recommend checking it out. I think she did an excellent job.
I think it's also like this is I'm gonna say this, but this is not to be like negative, but she comes off very French.
Yes.
Yes, but in a positive way,
But
because she
it's-
seems very like calm.
Yes.
And like in a way also in the interview very suave.
Yes.
Because she's also very well dressed and
Yes.
stuff like that, and she's just like,
Yeah.
hey, you
But I
know?
also, I do have to say that it's definitely featured throughout. Once you get to know her in the show, it's also, she has this incredible confidence. Like, she knows who she is.
And she's good,
And
dude.
no, she's excellent. And I'm really excited to continue watching her career. But then it's also, so my nickname is the Pocket Rocket. And then you can see a shot of her sitting on a chair and her feet just dangling. And she's very much aware that that's her. But it doesn't stop her,
Hey,
you know?
Well, especially back in the day
Yeah.
when they didn't have the weight requirement, she would have killed it.
Yeah.
Especially because that the smaller you were, the more advantage it was for you.
100%,
And
100%.
she's 21 years old,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. But she seems older. She seems more mature.
Yeah, she does seem
She does
older.
have a lot more experience than some of the other drivers in different categories. Last season was also her first season in open wheel, which was also really impressive how well she did in that season, considering it was her first time in an open wheel championship.
I think she's 159 centimeters. Is that right?
No way.
It says 5'3".
That's not 159.
I don't know. So one says here right now she's 159, and the other one says she's 5'3". But she is. I mean, you see. I'm looking at a picture right now next to other women from Iron Dames, because she's part of the Iron Dames, and she is like literally almost a head short.
No, exactly. She's tiny. But it was just really cool to see how just confident she is, and she's super competitive.
But also, that was her first season in an open.
That's literally what I just said.
Oh, so sorry. In a single seater, she
Yes.
came from GT racing.
Yeah.
I really was hoping that she would be doing Le Mans this year, but I think her
Yes.
focus is obviously F1 Academy, and because it falls on the same
Weekend. There's
you
not
already
really
complained about it. There's no way. This is really dumb by the FIA. Why would you
Yes.
do that?
Yeah, agreed. One of the things I also wanted to mention was the relationships between the women. I think the first episode was called something like "There's no friends on the grid" or something like that, which is not true.
Which is also, it is so interesting that you're framing it like this, because we are notoriously in an era in F1 where everyone, in my opinion, gets along a little bit too much. You know, because all of them kind of grew up karting against each
Yes.
other. We know, of course, like Charles and Max had like the situations in their youth and stuff
And
like
George and Max
that. Yeah,
now.
and stuff like that. But for the majority, it seems like all of them get along fairly fine.
Yeah.
Or like, I think, aren't Carlos and Alex their neighbors?
Yeah.
And
I
all
mean,
this stuff, you know?
So I think they were trying to create some drama, but there wasn't really much drama there. I mean, of course, there was a little bit like some of the girls were joking around like they have to push Abby off the grid so that somebody can win, somebody else can win, you know, like
Of
stuff
course,
like
yeah.
that. There was, like I said, there was this cultural immersion trip that was organized by the Alcabesi sisters, which was really nice. You could see them all like getting along and joking and things like that. Because of course they don't see each other all the time either, since there's
Yes.
just 10 races in the season.
And let's be real though, also, there is also this like almost, I mean, I could imagine like this like uniqueness of the situation that you're in, because most of the time in any other series that you're racing, you might be the only woman, or
Yes.
there's maybe one other woman on the grid, right? So now all of a sudden it's only women, so
Yeah.
it's very different.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
And then there was this one moment where Leah turned 18. So they did like a birthday party for her, which was really sweet. And then there was this moment where Abby was like, yeah, she's not really... she was a little bit bored at the party because some of the girls were taking selfies and pictures.
And
because
that's not really her.
Yeah, because it was like on this beautiful rooftop. I think it was in Singapore. And then so at one point she just took off her clothes and jumped into the pool and got some of the girls wet, and they weren't really happy about it. And she was like, I had a blast.
Nice. Hey, I mean, come on.
Yes.
When in Rome or when in Singapore,
No,
right?
exactly. And then at the last race, they all went out and they did like some beach volleyball and stuff like that, which was really nice. And that was when also Abby, I felt, it seemed like she was a little bit looser then because she had already won.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit easier for her to kind of also vibe with some of the other girls.
Yeah, I think it's very normal for like people who are on the top to
Yes.
isolate.
No, of
It's,
course.
you know, very common.
100%.
I think Lewis was very infamous, or is very infamous for it, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I think it just happens when you're on the top,
I think
right?
so. I think it happens naturally. That's
yeah,
just how
I
it
think
is.
so too, yeah.
So that was really, it was nice to see their relationship. And it was also throughout the season, you saw Leah created a really nice friendship with Aurelia Nobles.
Nice.
Which was really nice. So that was really one of the only times
Aurelia
you
is
see
in the
Aurelia.
Puma, right? She was in the Hilfiger and now she's in the Puma? Or she always was in the Puma?
Nerea Marti was in the Hilfiger.
Okay, so she's in the Puma, right?
Think
Yeah,
so.
she is. Yeah.
So that was really cute to see their relationship and that they're just friends and very supportive of each other. And then some of the girls, of course, knew each other prior. Some of them didn't. So it was cool to see how their relationships too. And I liked that there wasn't really this forced rivalry put on or even just projected, you know, like fake edited or anything like that, which part of me also didn't expect it just because it was also a Hello Sunshine production and you want to lift up women, and that's the whole reason for
and
F1
you
Academy.
Portray them, because like with women, if they're being competitive with each other,
Yeah.
it's a lot of times could be turned as catty,
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
exactly.
You don't want that.
Exactly. I mean, there were definitely some moments on track we had seen that people were hit by somebody,
Of
and
course.
then there's like people being upset about it, but it's
This
not
is natural.
exactly.
Yeah.
Not nothing too crazy. So before we get into your questions, there was just two more negative things that I wanted to mention that
Okay.
I didn't love
What
as
was
much.
the first one again?
Well, the two things that I originally had already mentioned was the controversy from the first race was not mentioned at all. Second, the person I didn't like or care for was Bianca's performance coach, Warren. I didn't care for him. It could be the editing, but I just feel like somebody with a different touch would have been nicer. Somebody could maybe would be able. Of course, we didn't see off screen. You know, like I don't know what happened behind the scenes. But like I think it would have been maybe nicer to have somebody there to could help her with her mental strength, like the mental support that she needed to lift her up a little bit more. Because I felt like it seemed like she was very much alone a lot, although she was surrounded by people constantly taking pictures and things, but it's just so isolating,
because
you know?
it's like this thing, it's like you're surrounded by all your fans and stuff like that, and you're, you know, doing interviews and stuff like that, and then what happens? You go to the hotel room and you're by yourself.
Yeah.
And it does get very lonely.
And I also think, at least that's my interpretation of it, she didn't have as much time with the other women just because her race weekends were packed with all the other things that she had to do because she had such a big social media platform already.
I think I read across all platforms she has like 2.2 million followers, so that's quite a lot.
I checked on Instagram the other day, it was like 1.2 million.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think with like TikTok and stuff like that, she's at 2.2 million.
Yeah.
So I get like, you need to do this if this is helping you pay for it, especially if you're not coming from money.
Yeah. So I get it.
Good on her, honestly, for doing this, because the few times I've been on TikTok through RacePlazaMedia, like she has popped up, and like hers is always like so many comments, so many likes and stuff like that. And from what I've seen, the few things I've seen, it was quite positive. So that's good to see.
That's good. She did mention also the negative comments that she gets, especially after races where she doesn't do well.
Of course, because everyone knows better, everyone is better, and it's so easy to be a hater online.
And then, unfortunately, she still looks at them.
Yeah, of course.
And it just doesn't help. It just makes it worse.
Yeah, of
course.
Know?
And then the other two things that I didn't love as much were they didn't show as much on-track racing action as I would like. I understand there's only 10 race weekends over the year.
It's 20 races,
It's 20 races. It's shorter races, but there was still, I feel like, a lot of on-track action that we didn't, I felt like we didn't get to see it quite as much. We saw a lot of off-track or like things about the race car drivers and things like that, which is great because I want to get to know them. But I think there was a little bit of a missed opportunity that we didn't get to see them racing as much as I would have liked to, because I want them to highlight the racing because that's what they want to do. You know, that's their job.
And it's also, if you're showing that, it might also invite people to go and check it out.
Yes.
Because F1 Academy, you can watch for free on YouTube, right? You don't even need a F1 subscription for that. Okay, that's interesting.
So yeah, that was one of the, I mean, like I said, they show it, and especially towards the later half of the season, there's more of it, because then they also amp up like the suspense, who's gonna win, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But I still think they could have shown more, because I think there were some really great on-track moments last season. We had great races that we so much enjoyed. So that was one of the things I didn't love. And then the last thing I didn't love was, so they have this very brief intro, and it's like Bianca Bustamante in her helmet and just taking it down, and then it's like F1 Academy, da-da-da, whatever it is. And I didn't love that it was always Bianca.
Oh, you wish it would have changed per episode, maybe?
Yeah, either per episode, as in like whoever is featured more in the episode or something. But I didn't love that it was just Bianca. I mean, it's like a really tiny criticism, but I think it would have been nice if they would have been to change it. Like the episode where Abby wins, it could have been Abby. You know, I mean, it's such an easy thing to film.
A lot of Abby.
No. But I mean, like one episode we featured Chloe Chambers a little bit more. The first episode, it was Leah Block. Show her. You know, it's such a small thing, but I would have liked that.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a tiny point of criticism. But now, let's open this up to some questions.
Okay, so the obvious question, I think, is how does it compare to DTS?
Okay, I thought you would ask me that.
Yeah,
and
I think because I think people will naturally draw the comparison.
Of course, which makes a lot of sense.
Even though I think the angle is quite different.
I think so. So, granted, it's been almost 3 years, I think, since I've watched Drive to Survive. So it's been a little bit, so it's not super fresh on my mind. But I think I definitely there's similarities to it. It's Formula One type racing. They also don't cut it chronologically. They mix and match however they see fit.
And stuff like that.
It is, and then some of them it's like also there was one shot where the Alcabesi sisters pulled up in their Jeeps, you know, and it's just like this very dramatic. Hollywood kind of shot.
Individually?
No, they I think they came up together. You know, and I think it was it was two Jeeps, and it was just like this
Oh, so they
shot.
drove individually.
I think the sisters were in one and the dad was in the other Jeep. But then there was also the shot where Amna was driving her Porsche GT3. I mean, it's a gorgeous
color?
one. It's this magenta
Oh, so it's
color.
a custom color.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then it has like I don't know if it's like carbon fiber on the side or not, but it has like GT3 written on it.
Yeah, which I think
this,
it comes
with a black stripe on the side.
Oh, wow.
But it looks so nice.
It's Amna?
Yeah, I'm not. I'll give you a see.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, look it up. It's gorgeous. So they had some really like Hollywood-esque type shots. They also, of course, create the drama. So I think there's definitely similarities to that. But I do think the goal of it was to...
Sorry. Okay.
The goal was more to lift up the women, to highlight the importance of F1 Academy, the reason that it's there. You know, and I'm also I'm curious to see if there's gonna be a second season. It hasn't been officially announced yet. Are you looking at it now? Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it's a GT3.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, either way, but I like the colorway and everything.
Yeah.
It looks really nice.
Damn, imagine being 20 and having a GT3.
I know.
It's just living a different life.
I know, seriously.
I didn't even have a car when I was 20.
No, I did.
I had like a Honda, right?
Yeah, I had a Honda Civic. It was like from the early 90s.
Well, but that was a lit one because
It
you had the
was.
Civic, the green one, right? Stick shift?
Yes, because it was also lower, loud exhaust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. I can't lie. It's
Yeah.
not a GT3
It's not a
RS,
GT3, no.
but it was definitely a fun first car.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I think there's definitely similarities to it. I don't think this is quite as dramatized.
Okay. Is there, because also like so I've never watched DTS, but in DTS, as far as I'm knowing, there's also a lot of, I don't know what the English word for is, sticheln. Yeah.
Like poking the bear kind of like.
Or just like always like negging someone on. Like there's always like Christian Horner saying something to Toto saying this.
Oh, no.
That is not a
No, I
thing.
don't think so. It seems a little bit more supportive, a little bit
Okay.
more positive. It focused on the positive things.
So isn't DTS, they show more racing?
I think so. But it's also longer episodes, I think. More
okay.
episodes.
Okay.
And they also, of course, they have more to pick from.
Yeah.
If more races in the season, longer races.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's a little bit more racing highlighted in DTS.
Okay.
Next question.
Okay. Oh God. Sorry, I just forgot because I looked at the goddamn GT3. I was gonna say, so would you watch another season of it? Ew. Now I got you.
Well, okay. So the reason I'm hesitating is because I don't really watch DTS either right now.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I watched the season, I don't need to watch it back necessarily. I think with F1 Academy, I would be. I think it's more likely that I would watch it again, just because the cast changes so much. So I would
Yeah.
like to know more about the different women on the grid. It's newer, so I would be more curious about it. And there's also I'm not quite as saturated with F1 Academy as I am with F1.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because
There's
there's
much
not
longer
as-
breaks between.
Yeah, and also I thought this was great. It was 7 episodes. It was not too long. So I think I might watch it again. It's not because I didn't like it. It's just because, I mean, there's so much other things to watch.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say I would watch it over DTS.
Okay, so was very little Maya work?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I thought so, just because like she doesn't seem very extroverted. So I think they're obviously looking for people who are maybe also a little bit
Granted, Abby Pulling doesn't consider herself an extrovert
I
either.
agree with that, but she's the champion, so that's
Exactly,
different.
exactly. So we saw Maya, especially at the end, a little bit more because
she did a lot better towards the end. of
and
the
she
season.
also won
Yeah.
at the end. So we saw her a little bit then, but there was not as much of a feature on
Did
her.
they talk at all about Dorian's injury?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
No, I don't remember them mentioning the injury at all.
Because like she had just broken a couple of ribs, falling off a bike, I think, or was it?
No, it was during the race when she went over the.
Where like
one of the-
she broke a couple of ribs, and that's why she couldn't do Le Mans last year.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, no, they didn't mention that at all. I'm trying to go through my notes if there was anything else that
I had a
I
different
want
question,
to
but I
mention.
just forgot it again.
Yeah, no worries. There was one thing I thought was really cute. So Abby was saying that of course, like women in motorsport, it's tough because a woman is trying to make herself in a man's world, and that's why she said one of her favorite Disney movie is Milan. I mean, it makes sense. You know, Mulan going and like dressing up as a man and going into the army and stuff like that.
China from the Huns.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was a really interesting comparison, but and it was also we saw at the end some of the seats being renewed. For example, Leah Block going to James Val's office and him saying like, "Yes, we would love for you to come back. Your trajectory this season has been amazing."
But she didn't return for Williams.
No, she did.
Oh, Chloe Chambers switched seats.
So Chloe Chambers was officially the first poach from F1 Academy since she went from Haas to this year in Red Bull Ford.
Yes.
So that was also mentioned. Then there was this whole thing about Bianca Bustamante, because even after F1 Academy, there's a chance that those F1 teams will help sponsor your career a little bit. But then Zach... he didn't even say it directly to Bianca, which I think now thinking about it is interesting. But so we saw him, Zach Brown, I think it was Warren, her performance coach, and Susie Wolf have a conversation. And he's like, yeah, in McLaren, it's all about performance. And so we won't be able to support her anymore, which it's a hard truth. I understand it as hard as it is. But I thought it was interesting now that he didn't say it to her. So Susie Wolf had a video call with Bianca, and it was like, hey.
It's a little bit, it was like, Zach, put on your big boy pants and just tell her, right?
Yes. So I wonder what the relationship was, like how close he was with her. Because technically, he is the big boss.
Yeah, he is a CEO
Yeah, you know,
of
but
McLaren
then I would think maybe, would Stella be the one that have the conversation?
No, because he's the team principal for the F1 team.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So
it would be him, I think. Well, I don't know. I don't know how involved this.
Yeah.
Were there any other F1 team principals that you saw?
We saw Fred Vazzaro briefly. We saw Toto, especially talking Toto with Dorian. Also, when he renewed her seat or her engagement with Mercedes, they were talking in French, which was really cool.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize he spoke French.
But then very much at the beginning when Susie Wolf was introduced, there was like this really Hollywood shot when she was like walking. I forgot where she was walking. She was coming out of a plane or something like that. But really, I mean, she dressed always so elegantly, right? She's walking down and Toto just behind her. And then for the longest time, Toto, we didn't hear him speak. He was just like, eye candy.
I love it. Yeah,
which is so cool.
Yeah, they make a good couple.
No, they're a great couple. They're such a power couple.
Yeah,
I mean, Jesus. But
also
it's
billionaires, right?
I mean, it's
Toto
like,
alone with his stake in Mercedes F1 team, right? Fuck, dude.
I just thought you said his stake in Mercedes.
No, his stake in F1. He owns like 40% of it, I think.
Oh, I get it, but it was just like I misheard it.
Okay,
It was so
chill.
Funny. But it's just like I mean, I love Susie. Who doesn't? You know, haters don't.
Yeah.
But it's just like her. I just also love her
dedication.
Yes, and she takes so much pride in it. And they also had like a end of the year meeting with all the drivers in where she was just thanking them for a great season and wishing them good luck on their next endeavors for people who come back next season, of course. And she was also getting a little bit emotional, but she was trying not to cry. And it just shows how much this means to her, because her sincere goal is to have a woman in F1.
Yeah, and I mean, to quote David Coulthard, it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when,
yes.
Right? I will say, I think I just saw Susie Wolf also said that if it wasn't for F1 Academy, she would have left motorsport. She was going to do something else. I didn't read the article, but I was like, that's very interesting. But this is also like, this is her baby, right?
Yes. And I'm glad it's doing well.
Yes, because also I was going to say last season was especially important for her because this was the first one that we could watch, right? And then they're making a show about it. So, and I mean, I obviously don't know what the numbers are. I never looked into it, but I thought it was really good, and I really, really enjoyed watching F1
the
Academy.
Actual, like, racing
the
season.
actual racing, because I didn't watch a show. I will say, in general, enjoy also watching Formula 4. I just don't follow a specific season because like there's so much to watch and I don't only want to watch single seaters. So watching F1 Academy and F1 in this year, I'm also dabbling in GB3. That's like, you know,
Yes.
that's enough. But it's good to see, and I really hope. Okay, do you think if you've never watched F1 Academy but you watched it on Netflix, you think people would want to check it out?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it does a nice balance of making a connection with the drivers. Like you get to know them really, really well. There's these moments of like Herzschmerz, you know, like
Heartache.
Heartache, but for good reasons, for sad reasons. You really learn about the stress that comes with it, also the physical work that it takes, and also just the passion all these women have, that they truly love it, and they've been loving it for such a young age, you know, and it gets me excited and gets me a little emotional too, because I think it's just such a beautiful thing, and I'm really happy that
Yeah, someone crying.
that there is that opportunity now, you know, and then that is also broadcasted and it's on such a global level now accessible for people. So that, I think it's a great opportunity for people to get excited about it. And I'm hoping that Netflix show might increase the numbers for F1 Academy this season because the season has been really good so far too.
Yeah, and like one of the number one people that I would be also interested in if they're going to feature her next year would be Emma Feldermeyer.
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't know, she had only done karting up until joining F1 Academy, and she's been doing actually really, really well. She, on the reverse grid, I mean, of course, this favors when you qualify a little bit further in the back. She has made it onto the front rows, you know, and she is still struggling in being able to defend because obviously going from an F1, from a kart, right, a go-kart to a single-seater is like, there are, you know, worlds between.
Yeah.
But she's been doing really, really well. I'm really excited about seeing her race.
I'm overall really excited for the season. I also have just the standings pulled up for now.
Yeah.
Because we have, of course, like we said, if you're watching this as it comes out, we have the women racing this weekend in Montreal, Canada, upsettingly during Le Mans weekend.
Honestly, what idiots. Last year, it wasn't like that.
No.
And it's like, the thing that is so frustrating is it's the same like FIA. You guys aren't making the fucking schedule. You don't have to schedule Le Mans on the same weekend as...
No, it's so frustrating. But anyways, so currently the standings are quite close. We're 3 rounds in. Miami was cut short.
Is Dorian on the top?
No, Maya.
Is Maya? Okay.
Maya Berg is at the top with 64 points. Then we have Dorian in second with 63 points.
Okay, I knew there was only one
It's
point.
really,
I just
really
didn't
close.
know who was on top. Yeah.
And then in third, we have Chloe Chambers with 55. Then rookie, Alicia Pomorsky is fourth with 44
Alicia's been
points.
it's killing. She's in the Red Bull Honda, right?
Yeah, in the regular Red Bull.
Yeah, which is
Chloe
still the Honda one.
Yeah, is in the Ford one.
Yeah.
And then we have also another rookie. I think the youngest woman on the grid, Alba Larsen.
Yeah.
She's in fifth.
Nice.
And then we have Ella Lloyd with 23.6. Tina Hausmann returning her last season this time.
German. Yeah.
Then we have Nina Gardemann, who was a wild card last season. She's now in 8th place.
That's
and
awesome.
then Emma Felbermeyer is 9th. And then I think it's Rafael Ferreira. She is 10th right now. So I'm very much looking forward to this season. I think the show definitely got me more excited about it. I have a little bit more of a connection with the women on the grid. I mean, obviously not everybody is on the grid
Anymore.
but I'm very much excited to watch it and to keep supporting it because I think it's just such an incredible program. And I also love that it is just 2 seasons. I mean, you have just the 2 seasons because, I mean, it's tough. But the sport is tough.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I've already said it before in a different video. I think when I covered GB3, that part of me kind of wished that at least it would be like, what is it, 3? Because like all good things come in 3 or something like that.
True. But then that way we have more women get the opportunity. There's...
Yeah,
you know? One last thing, because I did look up some of the women that didn't come back. What they're doing now. Bianca Bustamante is, of course, in GB3 as well with Abby Pulling.
Different teams.
Different teams, yes, but they're both in the same thing. And it's also announced during the show that she gets a seat in GB3. So she's really thrilled about that. then the Alcabesi sisters, they are competing, I think, in the road to Le Mans. I don't think they're in Le Mans, but they're
So
at
GT cars.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I would assume so. Yes. So I saw some pictures of them there. So that was really, really cool to see. I'm just happy to see that they're all racing in one shape or form.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm excited to see what the future holds for all of them.
And I mean, the good thing is also like, I mean, that there's so many different racing leagues. Like we just watched for the very first time Euro Truck Championship.
Yes.
And like this is a whole championship that has existed for decades.
Yes.
You know, there where people race in trucks.
Yes.
You know, so like I'm not saying that one of them will end up there, but it's like because there's so many different championships, you would hope they'll find a seat.
Yes, agreed.
You know?
Agreed. Yeah, so
which is chances are, you know, but you know.
of course. But yeah, so overall, I highly recommend checking it out. If you've not watched it yet, even if you watched last season of racing, I would still highly recommend it. It's really entertaining. You get to know the women a little bit more. And like I said, it truly got me even more excited for this season's F1 Academy races. So 2 thumbs up for me.
2 thumbs up also from me for you for giving us this breakdown.
What are your thoughts on it very quickly before we end this video? Now that you've heard my thoughts on it, does it intrigue you?
Okay. Like, will I go watch it? No.
No.
Because
but that's just you as a person.
Me as a person, because I have never watched a single episode of Drive to Survive.
Yes.
I'm not planning on watching a single episode because I just don't care. I want to watch the racing. I think it's really awesome that it gives those women like a spotlight, and it's like you already have cameras there anyways, so might as well do something with it, right? And it is also a really good way to help market these drivers, right? Because in the end, it's in a way the drivers are also a product that needs to be sold. You know, this is an F1 the same way. You know, like Checo had a seat at Red Bull also because he brought in so much sponsorship, right, from Mexico, right? He might be coming back again because he brings so much money into it, right? And in a way, you know, it hopefully helps these drivers, and maybe seeing this you know, brings attention to also from other companies, because we have, what is it, Charlotte
Tilbury,
you know, a makeup company sponsoring a seat on the grid, which is really awesome. So hopefully this will bring in more companies and maybe either extend the grid or help these drivers, you know, form relationships with companies and help them further their racing career. So I'm all for it. Will I watch it? I would probably watch like once, like there may be compilations on YouTube of something like highlights or like you know, stuff like that. I would probably watch that. I'm not gonna go in and watch a show, but that's just me. This is nothing against them, you know.
No, but that makes sense. I as soon as I asked the question, I was like, oh, I regret it, because I know it's just generally not a show that you would watch.
I watch very little TV in general, and so it is not. I will say I would probably watch that over Drive to Survive, just because I think Drive to Survive, from what I've seen, the little clips that I've seen, it seems too fake,
so dramatized, heightened.
This is definitely not something that I would enjoy watching.
Yes, and this one didn't feel as much. And I think that might be because I remember going into it, you were like, oh, one of the criticisms was that it's trying to be Drive to Survive but doesn't quite hit it, or something like that. Isn't that how you phrased it?
I just had seen someone say that, but I think probably the intention was never that, and so maybe this was probably just clickbait. I didn't click on it, but I will say, and I'm saying this, and maybe you can agree or disagree with this. Maybe Drive to Survive is like Top Chef, and F1 Academy is a little bit closer to Great British Bake Off because it's a little bit more wholesome and a little bit more positive in a way.
Yes, but I mean, I would say I don't want people to think... Or
maybe DTS is Hell's Kitchen and F1 Academy is Top Chef.
Maybe that, because it still has action and drama and things. It's just not unnecessarily dramatized, you know?
Yeah, because like you have all of these like dramatized
Yes.
sentences from like team principals and like, when the car is not good, then fuck off or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I didn't watch it, but you know how
But
it is.
it's I think it's overall it's just a little bit more wholesome maybe.
The first thing that comes to mind when I think about Drive to Survive is Zhou Guan Yu's accident where he ends up. And
yes.
I've only seen a clip on YouTube about it where it's like they show it and they show it in black and white.
Yes.
Then they show it black and white, slowed down, and it's like, bro, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Here? You
No,
know, it just seems like a lot.
Yes.
And I get that his family was in a stance, but it's just like a lot. You
yes.
know.
No, I agree.
So.
But
yeah.
Yes, but hopefully this will interest you guys now or piques your curiosity.
Especially if you're maybe looking for something to watch.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great watch. Tune in for it. Tune in for the actual races as well.
Now I remember. Do you have a favorite episode? If you're like, hey, if you're just gonna watch one episode, watch this one. Oh. It's gonna be episode 1 because it's gonna fuck up your heart.
No, it would. I would say probably the episode. I think it's probably episode 6.
Oh, interesting.
Because it has a lot of different things that I like about it. Because it has the cultural immersion, so it has the girls together. Mm-hmm. That's the episode where Abby officially wins the championship. Mm-hmm. So you have the emotions of the dad being there and him crying and me crying. So you can think about that when you're watching it. And it also shows the heartache of Bianca going into her last race, the stakes of it, the mental pressure. So I feel like it has a combination of a lot of the elements. So good question. I think it would be episode 6 for me.
This is the one that I thought about earlier, then I couldn't remember. After I looked at the GT3, I was like, La La Land.
Yes, I think that would be probably, one of the episodes that I would recommend. Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for watching it for us, because I wasn't going to do it. Yes. That you volunteered and did a great job of, retelling it.
Good.
And also, I think the way you told it, I don't think it was a big spoiler, and I don't think it's because we didn't do like an episode play-by-play.
Yes.
I think people can still go in and watch it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the goal. But perfect. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for taking the time to make this. And thank you for everyone listening. If you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure to hit the follow, leave us 5 stars. On Monday, we will be back with our race recap for the weekend. There will be so much. It's Le Mans, it's F1, it's F1 Academy. I'm not watching anything else.
Yes.
I'm already telling you right now. It's enough.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.